different types of businesses have different stereotypical life cycles or expected things to happen with your revenue over time. And it's really helpful to know which business you're in so that you can best manage the issues that your business currently has, so that you can then figure out what's the best approach to take from here. Because the realization is that business is painful at all times. Whether you are shrinking, stagnating, or growing, it is painful. And so it's important to understand what pains should I expect and which ones are okay to let go and which ones have to be dealt with right now in order to stop feeling that pain. So most of the people I'm surrounding myself with at the moment are dealing with info product businesses, and this is specifically what I want to talk about today. But info product businesses are a fantastic one to start because you get exceptionally large revenue returns very quickly, and then it becomes more challenging to turn it into like a quote-unquote real business. Scaling past a point becomes challenging because you are the constraint. Now you've got other businesses like e-commerce or, basically e-commerce, drop shipping, that sort of stuff, where your revenue will spike when you crush a constraint, and then it will stay there for a really long time until you fix the next one. And your constraints are really supply, demand, supply, demand. Then you've got service-based businesses, which are just really linear at scaling. Like you're building out a traditional sales team situation, or, add one sell, add one fulfillment, add one sell, add one fulfillment, most of the time. And then you've got tech, which kind of looks the opposite to info, where like probably nothing for a very long period of time. And then when you hit product market fit, you skyrocket. So in terms of which is the best one to start, I think info is probably the best one to go into if you are looking to replace a job. If you're looking for the world's largest sellout tech, because of that massive hockey stick at the end, you end up with being able to get lots of investment because of the amazing returns you can get off the backside. And services if you are looking to build a business. That's probably my go-to of those three. And then e-com, I don't know, kind of had its day, but it's still massive, and it's just a type of business, and it just depends where you start and how you fall into it as to which one you're going to end up with. But I was talking today with a friend who has an info business, and they're doing fantastically, really well. First 3 months of the business doing about over 100k in 3 months, which is fantastic, right? Pretty unheard of for a lot of like initial starting of businesses. Now, caveat, not their first business by any means, but there are fires burning everywhere all the time, having to work 24/7 just to make sure things don't break, and then having the goal of expanding to a 7-figure business at the same time. It's causing real issues because with an info product, as exactly what she's seeing is this high spike. But now delegating any of it is going to, or systemizing any of it is going to break her next attempt of goal, which is maintaining high margins while significantly growing. Double, triple, 4x the business. But this does cause problems because inevitably, as you hire and scale a team, the people you bring on are likely to, unless you have investment, or you go into business with other people who have this skill, like you actually give them equity and you tag team together, they're likely going to be worse than you. And so your margins are going to drop because if you're running paid ads as an example, and I've experienced this, if your CAC is set at your current close rates, if your close rates drop to 20% of what they were, or rather it takes 5 times the number of leads, your CAC has just gone up 5 times, which might eat all of the profit you once had. So then outsourcing, or rather developing a sales team, can prove really problematic. Typically in info, and this is why lots of people have really high sales percentages in info, is you're selling yourself as the product. And so all of a sudden you've now sold all yourself. Now you're having to fulfill everything you've just sold, but you don't have a system where that's fully automated. And then at the same time, you're thinking, why am I not getting the revenue that I'm wanting when it's well, I don't have enough leads coming in. If I had 10 times the leads, like, I'd have 10 times the sale. Like, that's true. But you probably wouldn't be able to handle it. And so, giving you my experience of how we've built our service business, which could be thought of as an info product, there are lots of analogies there, but it's not quite the same. I think it's closer to a service. We spent 3 months figuring out, can we give away our product, which we've had 13 years of experience doing at this point, for free in 3 months? Can we develop a sales system where we get customers and net haven't paid for them? That would be amazing. So we did that, and actually we did slightly better than break even. We made about 4 to 5 grand, which I was like, whoa, stoked. So then we spent the remainder of that year, so the next 9 months, with those 100 clients that we got, perfecting the system, perfecting the package, the program of what it was we were selling. So we did this, turned out amazing results. Then at that point, we're like, okay, so we now know how to do it. We know what it is. We know how to get people. Now we need to turn it into a quote unquote business, right? So step one was creating the systems and the resources required to be able to hand off the fulfillment of this. Because if you're going to have 10,000 students, you can't fulfill that yourself. It's not happening. So we had to bring in people who have experience tutoring, like great tutors, and then give them our systems on how to do this. Now, we went from a 90% stay rate after their first round and 7x results to still pretty good, like 70% stay rate and like 5 to 6 times results, which is roughly where we're at now. And like, that's not a bad drop off, but at the start, it's always lower. And then we figured out the process of how to do that, and we've managed to recruit people, and we've built a system within our system where we can now insert a new person and not have to deal with it. So new hires can be trained and inserted into the business, and that's no longer a constraint. So that's massive. But again, if you're on an info product and you are the product, that step alone is going to be really tough. From there, we're then like, okay, amazing. We're lucky that all of ours is paid ads. We don't need to worry about the front end. We can literally type in a different number and get 10 extra leads. Amazing. So now the sole focus of our business, or rather the sole constraint, is this middle section of lead comes in, fine, closing them at a reasonable enough conversion so that there's still money left over to then fulfill them. And this is what we've been working on. What I've recommended for my friend is essentially to have a look at the pipeline, have a look at her entire pipeline and go, if I open up this constraint, what happens? So if we imagine person has never heard of you, person has done everything you've ever done and has now left you, right? Graduated. At the moment, if they 10x the people coming in, yes, their conversions would likely mean that inefficiency now is not too much of a problem because you have volume. So you might end up with the sales that you want, the sales will go a bit bigger and fulfillment will reach capacity. And to be honest, it's already there. So doing that, really not great for the rest of the system. It's not letting too much more through, but it would let you get to capacity. But it's quite a big ask if you're doing organic content. Next up, your sales conversions and systems, really good. Like if you open up here, you're now maximizing the number of leads that come in and then move through to the next system, and you're drastically increasing efficiency so that when you pop the front open, you're now getting even more of doing that. So I recommend that doing that first. Great idea. The issue is then, again, the more you sell, you still haven't got the product sorted. So this is probably where I would start, like we did with our own company, is making sure that once someone comes in, they're now looked after. And that doesn't take up all of your time, unless that's what you want to do. If the goal is scaling, that's got to be sorted because you can only handle so much individually. And I basically hit this end of the pipeline and work backwards. So you've got everyone coming in, getting sorted, having an amazing experience, getting loads of word of mouth, fantastic. Then figure out the sales process so that the conversions are all good, making lots of money. And then you pile drive as much through the front as possible, and that's when you become an overnight success. That was my processing today of listening to all of the fires that were going on at the same time, just trying to figure out, you've only got limited attention and resource, and where do you put that in order to reach the desired goal? And I think that's the strategy. So if you are an info product, I probably wouldn't start an info business if the goal is to build a quote unquote real business and sell out. For most people's goal of financial freedom and, you know, earning a ton of money, it's a fantastic role for that, and you don't need to build a business to sell it. I think with the sort of money people and some of my friends are making in an info product, you could do that for 3 years, take the profits home and never work again. That's awesome. That's like a game that is really tempting to play, because you're in control of everything and you're not reliant on many other people, if anyone, and it's just a lot smoother. But you will never be able to build something astronomical. And so that's kind of the trade-off. If you want to build a more traditional business, I wouldn't go for an info product, because there are so many detractors which create limitations along the road, which is why spike in revenue and then such a heavy peak, plateau, when trying to push past this, because your face is attached to it. The system, you are the product. You've now got to try and systemize that, and it's just not small things to get done. But it's not impossible. Many people have done it and it is doable, but I don't think it's possible to do it all at the same time alone. And so if you're in that situation, I think going into business with someone who would be like a CEO for you, if you can manage to create something like that, having a CEO above you who can allocate your limited resource and be like, right, we're just going to focus here. I know when you see every fire, you've got to deal with every fire, and I get that. But I'm going to allocate your resource to that one problem. I've got the rest of the fires. Okay, crack that, and then the rest of it's all on me. I'll take the blame, they'll sort it out, and then refocus all your efforts to the next one and to the next one, to the next one. And that's the hardest thing to do, I think, and where lots of stress comes from. So yeah, there we go. Businesses have typical shapes, and it's nice to know which one you're in, because seeing fires everywhere isn't necessarily a bad sign, depending on which business you're in. There you go, whole load of rambling. But I hope that's helpful. Peace.